What you did with creating this indoor-outdoor blended space was very innovative.
And I'm surprised there's different takeoffs from it now, and people have done their own thing, but nobody does it like we did it with the same stage, a door that opens up and you have an amphitheater out back, or you can turn around and play inside. Nobody's done that concept. We built Polaris Amphitheater in '94. We sold it in '97 because Robert Sillerman of SFX bought the 8 largest promoters across the country to make a national promoter. And Sunshine was one of those 8. So he came to Jules and I and said, hey, we're selling, we need you to sell so Polaris can be part of this whole thing. So we only had Polaris for 3 years. SFX had the main amphitheater in town. The scuttlebutt was, well, they're going to buy the Newport Music Hall building and not renew PromoWest's lease. And once they had the meeting, then they tried squeezing me out.
Welcome to rock and roll.
Welcome to rock and roll. Thanks, Jules. So that's when I thought, you know what, they're going to have the main rock club and the main amphitheater. I'm going to be cut out of Columbus, Ohio. So on my yellow pad that you've seen, I designed, I need a bigger Newport Music Hall and I need a smaller Polaris. So that's where the indoor-outdoor concept came from, was out of concern that I was going to lose the market.
The concept that he came up with, the inside-outside with the stage and the back door, that was a genius moment. It's been sitting there for everybody to see since man started performing. I guess maybe, at some point it was all outside. He could just turn the guitar or the lute around and play to the other Greeks or something. But, since man brought music inside, that concept has been available and Scott was only figured it out. And so, he took the best of both worlds and his concept was the V8 moment. It's been 23 years, 24 years since we opened. And no one else has figured out how to do it. There's all sorts of weird things. People have indoor, outdoor spaces and stuff that way, but they haven't figured out how to do it. And, we've had lots of people who work for the company who've gone to work for other companies within the industry, and they haven't been able to steal it successfully either,
A quote from ChatGPT with your name on it said that you are one of the leading innovators in the music industry. It says, quote, Stienecker focuses on enhancing the concert-goer experience and always has, and supporting an entire music community. Stienecker is highly regarded for his business acumen and his passion for live music. Quote, Scott Stienecker innovated the indoor and outdoor concert experience. I know the answer, but were you the first person to create this indoor-outdoor venue?
Yep. And I'm surprised there's different takeoffs from it now. And people have done their own thing. I don't even know if they know about our indoor-outdoor. But there's different ways of doing it, but nobody does it like we did it with the same stage, door that opens up, and you have an amphitheater out back, or you can turn around and play inside. Nobody's done that concept.
And you said instinctively you felt like that 4,000 number was the sweet spot. And this venue could allow you to do that.
If you look at the business model, all the money's made at the owned and operated buildings that are our level. Stage AE, KEMBA Live, Megacore Pavilion, the Mission in Denver, Roadrunner in Boston, the Eastern in Atlanta. About 2,000 to 4,000 is where the money, that's the sweet spot. That's where the money's being made.
We had just completed the arena, and the design team for the arena was a company called Heinlein Schrock, teamed up with a local architect, NBBJ at the time. But Heinlein Schrock was really the creative and design component of that project. And we also had a master planner, Meyer Smollenberger at the time, they're MKSK right now, and Keith Myers specifically. From a design perspective, it was Scott, and Keith played a big role as well. So my role is translating the business vision to a design team. As the design evolves, I take that and translate that into, the execution side. It was an awesome challenge. First of all, we saw this as a really great opportunity to enhance amenities in the arena district. So we had this really unique facility that, that Scott envisioned, and we had to make sure that it met the program objectives, which was the reversible stage, so indoor and outdoor concerts could be executed. But then also it needed to meet the aesthetic objectives of the arena district and fit, from that perspective. That challenge, the indoor-outdoor component challenge to us was, really exciting, and it was motivational. Beyond the neighborhood relationship, we had, a vision for what was going to get developed around this facility. So we needed to make sure, from one hand, that the introduction of this performance venue wouldn't detract from our ability to develop adjacent projects. We didn't know that the ballpark was going to be, in its current location, but we wanted to make sure that we had flexibility to develop beside this facility and not have, PromoWest Pavilion have a negative impact on that development. The other sound issue, honestly, was we were building this facility adjacent to railroad tracks. We were all concerned about what impact would a locomotive going by the facility when an outdoor, performance was happening. And so we brought a sound engineer in to help us understand how we could mitigate the sound. And that's the reason we have the wall around the outside performance venue. I think that was one of the biggest challenges in this project, was making sure that from an inside out and an outside in perspective, that sound was being contained.
All right, now let's get to the big pain in our ass, and that is finding the door that could do this. But how big was the door?
I can't remember the exact dimensions, honestly. Scott did identify, the ultimate manufacturer of the door. It was, an airplane hangar door when we designed the building, the building opening around that. It had to be flexible. I mean, it had to be, easy to use. And when the door was shut, it had to provide the kind of protection for the indoor performances that were necessary. For the most part, that door's performed, over the year, the 25 years it's been there pretty well. It's been a big success. So it was just really a pleasure to work on that project. It's a point of pride for us in the arena district. With the great team we had, and working with Scott, we ended up producing something that's really pretty unique.
Well, I guess we pioneered something that's never been done before. You have the big door behind us. You can either play indoors, or you can turn around and you can play outdoors to the amphitheater.
First, outside at KEMBA is my favorite concert venue in the world. I loved being there because you see the city in the background. I remember one time being there, it was Train, and we were there for a friend's 40th birthday. Train was great. So I walked out, and they had another song to go, I think, one song or two, and you could hear Train playing in the background, but you walked out, and I heard Blues Traveler playing just up the street, and I can't remember another band that was playing that was over. I'm like, this is awesome. This is awesome. I mean, he picked a great place for it, first of all. I mean, who would have thought that where they are right now would be kind of the center of everything entertainment in Columbus? You've got all the stadiums around there. You've got a vibrant arena district that's continuing to grow. I think the planning for that venue was just, I don't know if it was blind luck or if it was just, really good insight into what was going to happen in the future. But it really worked out well. I think it makes it much more memorable for the consumer. It's one thing to go to an arena or a stadium, and those shows absolutely have their place. There's a certain level of excitement in a big room like that at times with the right band. But, we've done several of our summer concerts outside. And then, I think maybe one time we didn't quite have the sales on the outside that we thought we were going to have. So we just turned around to the inside, and it suddenly looked like a sold out show. Yeah, it has to be the moment, and it has to be the right vibe. And they've done a really good job of creating that, I think, in the building and the people that work for them too. I've, established good relationships with a lot of those people. And it's that to me means more. When I can walk into a building and I recognize everybody from security to people working, the gate, it's just, it feels good, right? It feels like, you're part of the fabric of the place.
What's great about let's just take like KEMBA Live for example. Outside caps, depending on the size or age of your audience, you're probably about 4,500 to 5,500. Inside's what, 35, some about that, 28, 35. You need about 2,000, 2,500 people to like really get all 8 cylinders of a rock and roll show to go. Like just enough roar from the audience to kind of create a cacophony of sound inside and outside. It's nice about having the outside portion of KEMBA is, you can expand upon that in things and enjoy the environment. I think really what makes those things special is you can create an intimate environment, but it's a big enough environment to have a great communal experience and make all the math work. And the math of rock and roll is the dirty secret that no one really talks about all the time. Is like, you got to be able to operate a venue on a Tuesday the same way you operate it on a Saturday. And Scott and Promo's formula of that 25 in, 55 out, that's pretty potent. You can do a lot of business in that if you can keep the lights on and create flexible moments, moments that can flex in size and scale. I think that's what's important. I think what Scott and Promo does really well is they have venues that can grow with the artist in the audience. And not every promoter and not every market really has those at a high caliber.
After you have kind of conquered Columbus in venue space, you make your way over to Pittsburgh. And how did the deal come down in Pittsburgh? How's that happen?
So Frank Cass, developer here in Columbus, who's done a lot of stuff in Pittsburgh, calls me and says, Scott, would you like to do a PromoWest Pavilion in Pittsburgh? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to look at the market. So I flew over with him. We checked out Pittsburgh. I said, yeah, I'd love to. And it was going to be tied in with the Steelers. So he set up this meeting for me to meet with Art, flew over. Art had this whole model built of an outdoor amphitheater. And we were in his office and he's showing it to me. And I was like, it's awesome, Art, but my model is indoor-outdoor. So if you're going to do just outdoor, I'm not interested. So that meeting concluded. So Frank calls me up a couple years later and says, hey, Art wants to meet with you again. Let's go over. So we fly over in Frank's plane, go meet with Art. Art's, hey, we want to do an indoor facility like the in LA. Forget the name of it. And I was like, Art, mine's concept is indoor-outdoor. When you're interested in indoor-outdoor, call me. And he chuckled, he laughed. He was like, I know, all right. So another couple years go by. I'm with my father. I took my father out to Santa Barbara to see my brother. And I get a phone call in the hotel from Frank. Frank goes, all right, Art will do the indoor-outdoor. So he had gone down the path. He had met with Live Nation, AEG, the Cornish Brothers. The Steelers had met with all these people, and for some reason didn't materialize. And I remember, I won't say which one of them, but one of them told Art, there's no way that guy can build an indoor-outdoor and do 30 shows a summer. There's no way. So they basically were saying I was lying to him. But Art went with me. I ended up being a partner. And when we flew over to cut the deal, it was a good story. Flew over to cut the deal. We're all around the big table. Dan Rooney's there, Art the second, Frank. We're all talking the deal. And Art goes, okay, well, what are you willing to give up on this? And I was like, well, I'll build it. I'll book it. I'll do all the sponsorships. I'll run it. I'll do everything. So I'll give you 10%. And Frank Cass elbows me and goes, like, let's go out. So we go out in the hall and he goes, hey, Art's not going to do anything unless he's at least 50%, Scott. You can't tell Art Rooney 10%. And I go, oh, okay, all right. So we went back in the room and I go, I'll give 50% up. So it was a deal, done deal. But yeah, I was going to give him 10% because I was going to do everything.
That's how you built the model before.
Yeah, so why give up? But if you're going to tie in, it's been a great partnership. Art's been an awesome. So we built it right next to Heinz Field. Jimmy Sacco, who runs Heinz Field, and John Wadrick, and Mark Hart, who used to be there. And we've had a great rapport with those guys. It's done extremely well. Every act, as they're coming across the country to get to the East Coast, a lot of them want to play Columbus. They all want to hit Pittsburgh before they go into the East Coast. So we Stage AE crushes. Stage AE crushes and KEMBA crush. Those two are awesome.
When he came up with that plan to build Stage AE where he did, he hit the bullseye. He truly did. And as somebody that's now embraced this city, and I've lived here for 14 years, I don't know if you've been here, but this location, I mean, I'm looking at my window, I'm looking right at Acrisure Stadium. It's unbelievable. And then we've got this beautiful block of restaurants and little businesses. And then right down the street, we have PNC Park. So being in the backyard of Acrisure, though, is really special. And when the artists are playing outdoors, they're looking right at the stadium. The Steelers have been, it's been an awesome partnership. It definitely gave us the clout that we needed coming in as strangers, if you will, as outsiders into the market. I take bands over there all the time for tours of the locker room and the stadium, and they get so excited. It's a simple phone call like, hey, can I come over in an hour? Like when you have those relationships, you can make those things happen. And when you're taking care of artists, which Scott's always wanted to do, he wants to make them feel comfortable and welcome and like kind of give them an experience that maybe other promoters aren't thinking of, or even like giving an artist a jersey. We had T-Pain a couple weeks ago. It was sold out, beautiful outdoor night. I personally gave him a jersey and he was like, what? This is the coolest thing ever. He wore it on stage. He wanted a terrible towel. Like he totally embraced being here and being part of Pittsburgh. And obviously, that Steeler jersey meant a lot to him. So that was pretty cool. And then getting to do the icons. I mean, we've done Alice Cooper 100 times here. We've done The Killers, Panic at the Disco, Styx, Joe Walsh. I mean, we have done so many of those classic rock icons in this building. Like, it's just so many to count. And then, we'll call them the younger, but now they've been around for so long, 21 Pilots, artists like that just come up through the ranks. 21 Pilots is definitely one because we have a little area called the Club at Stage AE that holds 400 people. So, God, I think this was like maybe in 2012. They played the club, sold it out. They came back for indoors, sold it out. They came back and played outdoors, sold it out. And then we did them at PPG Paints Arena, sold it out. So that's just one of many bands. And that's always been sort of a PromoWest thing, is we start them in the basement, we move them to Newport, we move them to KEMBA, and then out the door they go.
And that's what PromoWest is all about, is that alternative feel. That's what we've always done with PromoWest. We did it to Pittsburgh, and now we're doing it to Cincinnati. All these venues down here are kind of past their prime in Cincinnati. So that's why I built Megacore Pavilions, because Cincinnati needed a cool, mid-size, new building. People will hit me up and go, well, why don't you do REO Speedwagon anymore? Well, REO Speedwagon doesn't sell tickets anymore. My demo is not 65-year-olds. My demo is high school, college, and young professionals. So we always have focused on high school, college, and young professionals. Your classic rock, as much as I love classic rock, that's not what sells now. And I made sure we were downtown when we built PromoWest Pavilion here. We're downtown Columbus. We're downtown Pittsburgh and North Shore. And we're right across the river from downtown Cincinnati and downtown Newport, but we're looking right at Cincinnati. So we've always made sure we are part of downtown with our venues.
This is the plan that's coming to fruition now, is we had a presence up in the Detroit area with a couple of venues up there, the Royal Oak and the Masonic and a couple other venue interests. Then I bought the Agora Theater in Cleveland, and we did a big renovation project there. Then we did a deal with the Jacobs family for Jacobs Pavilion up there, which is a 5,000 cap, tented, seasonal, venue there. With what Scott had at the time, he had, Columbus and Pittsburgh with these indoor-outdoor rooms and the size of both of those, the indoor, say, fit well with the Agora and with something like Royal Oak, and the outdoor part of those two, venues, Stage AE in Pittsburgh and KEMBA and Columbus, fit with Jacobs and fit with the Masonic in Detroit. So when you're making offers to acts, it's a lot more compelling to be able to offer a run as opposed to, a one-off situation. And then early on, he and I had conversations about trying to add, Cincinnati as a market to that. And so we made that happen a couple of years ago with the Megacore Pavilion. So now it's, now there's, yet another like-sized pairing of rooms to add to, to that mix. So truly a Midwest footprint, now with PromoWest.
Well, it's a changed industry now. Live Nation has changed it completely. The loyalty has gone out the window. It's who's going to pay me the most money.
Scott had vision. See, he wasn't just a promoter. He believed in the product, and he wanted to make sure that when people came, they were engaged and they had a great experience. That was the difference. He wasn't just about, spots and dots. If it was just the music, Scott would have never made 40 years.
You can't do it without big money. And most of these people didn't. They didn't have big money. They were entrepreneurs. And nowadays, you have to have big money. It's a mature industry. It was immature for years. Festivals were immature. Clubs were immature. Everything was immature in the music business.
Scott's always been his own man. He's a combination of old school and new era. He's always been proudly independent. While everybody else was selling and consolidating, he really wanted to maintain that.
Now that there's two companies, Live Nation and AEG, so you're either one of those two players now, and I had to make the decision, am I going to go with Live Nation or am I going to go with AEG?
Showmaker, the never-told stories of rock and roll, is brought to you by Art Makes Columbus, Anheuser-Busch, and Mikey's Late Night Slice.